Everyone has the same 5 core areas of their life that ultimately determine how happy they'll be. Unfortunately, most of us have developed failure habits in each, and it's Will Moore's mission to help replace those with success habits to maximize momentum. After exiting his business for a combined 9-figure sum, Will learned it's not just about becoming an entrepreneur of your career, but an entrepreneur of the most important business you'll ever run, your life. And to crush it in your life requires firing on all cylinders in your 5 cores by continually taking action, building habits, and maintaining balance in each. Hello, and welcome to the 5 Core Life Podcast with Will Moore, founder of More Momentum. On today's episode, Will sits down with Mina Hawk, the HGTV star of Good Bones, to discuss building a family, her new baby girl, and building your ideal life. Mina talks about how she uses Stan Lee's quote, "With great power comes great responsibility," to make the world better, not worse for having her in it. Her new children's book, and how she successfully navigates finances in her relationship. You definitely don't want to miss this one. Wherever you're watching or listening, please be sure to pound that subscribe button so you get notified when new episodes air. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and drop a comment of what your key takeaways are during the episode, or reach out on social media at More Momentum. Would love to hear your key thoughts. Are you ready to fire on all cylinders? If so, let's go.
Hey! Oh my God. Listen, you're the best. Like, this just proves how cool you are for coming on again. Technology, while our friends.
So I'm not mad at you.
Say it again.
It's definitely something I would do. So.
Oh my God. I love that. I love when people are empathetic for when people do boneheaded things. And again, I'm taking full responsibility. God, technology. Okay. I just put my earbuds in and they're definitely not working. I'm speaking through this thing. I don't care. I'm just going to do it. What am I seeing in the background? What is that? Out of the window. Oh, are those hedges? Oh my God, I thought that was an ocean at first. I'm like, where are you?
No. So the side of my house is super, super close to the neighbors, and it's actually higher than them. So I built this like faux kind of LA-ish porch thing.
Oh my God.
And it's so it's like 2x4 framing behind it, and then just like the squares of hedge.
That is a really creative way.
It's taller than 6 feet, so that's not permanent. So.
Right. That's a very creative way to deal with, because in LA, a lot of areas you do not have huge yards, right? Yeah. So and you're like right on top of each other. So that's those of you watching that are right on top. I'm in Chicago. I'm in the suburbs. We actually got a yard, but that was like our number one criteria. We had to sacrifice some other things. We're like, I'll be darned if my kids and our dogs aren't going to be able to play in a yard. Growing up, like my wife and I were like, we got to. So, but there's other things we had to sacrifice. But having a yard, I mean, it's people take it for granted. So if you can kind of create it with the space, looks like you did a good job. So I just saw this People article they did on you. Do you want to talk about that stuff? Is that stuff that you want to discuss?
I can talk about whatever. Whatever
okay, well, let's
talk about. I'm down.
I love it. So I think this is an important topic, actually. Post-pregnancy, every woman goes through it. My wife, we've got 2 kids, so you now have 2.
Yes.
And oh my God, your baby. That was the other thing. I was so sick. You brought your sweet baby on last time, and we lost all that amazing footage of the sweetest creature. I'm going to ask if she's around, and she happens to walk by, we can bring her on again.
They're at the Children's Museum right now, but I imagine that they will be home soon. So if they are, I'll definitely.
If she comes in and she's like, "Mommy," you bring her right in, because that was like a highlight of mine, and I'm sure a lot of people did. So back to post-pregnancy advice. So obviously, my wife. I don't think there's any wife that goes through a pregnancy, comes out, and is like. I think it's always a struggle. Every woman deals with certain issues, and obviously, your confidence, your physical appearance, it's a huge change. And knock on wood, as a father, we're very lucky as men to not have to deal with that part of it. We just kind of do our thing, and then 9 months later, it's like woohoo! And you guys obviously. Yeah. So, what is your advice? How have you handled it? And, what's your advice for other women?
I mean, after I had Jack, I kind of thought that, this is something that I probably want to do. And then after Charlie, and I busted my butt. Like I do Orange Theory 5 days a week. Lots of walking. My job is very, I move around a lot. So it's not like I just, sat on my butt and ate bonbons. And still didn't get to where I was before I had Jack, before I had Charlie, which is, I think what happens a lot. It just kind of like creeps up. And then you're like, I don't even know who I'm looking at. It doesn't feel like me. And then when I got pregnant with Charlie, and I was probably 6 or 7 months in, I was laying in bed and like went to sit up. I think I just had a sports bra on. And instead of my stomach like going like this, it made a triangle. Something happened.
I'm sorry not to laugh.
No.
I'm going to tell you a story in a second. It's going to make you feel better, but continue.
Yeah, no, so that happened and I was like, what the hell is this? And I posted a video and I was like, this is weird. And everyone and their mother was like, it's abdominis rectum, something like that, where your abdominal muscles actually aren't attached anymore and they pull apart. And mine were like a fist width apart. And so that's why the muscle wasn't holding my stomach in round like the baby. It was like becoming a triangle. And that I did a bunch of research. Like you can do years of physical therapy and there's things you can do to help it, but you're never really going to get that reconnection without surgery. And I just knew, like, I knew I wanted to feel more like myself again, because even though Charlie's only 4 months old and it takes a little while for like your body to get back there after Jack, they're 2 years apart and I never felt like I got back there. And I'm very like type A. Okay, well, what can I do about this? I worked my butt off after Jack for a year in Orange Theory, didn't do what I wanted it to do. Although I was very strong. It didn't feel like I didn't see what I wanted to see, but I was strong inside.
Right.
So yeah, that was kind of the thought process behind that.
That makes a lot of sense. So, when I laugh, I've probably seem inappropriate to a lot of people, but let me tell you why I laugh. So my wife and I have this joke that she still thinks, I still, in my mind, am convinced one way. She thinks another way. Let's let you and the audience decide on it.
Okay.
So I had ACL and meniscus surgery about 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. And while it's not a pregnancy, it was similar in that I couldn't, so I don't know if you're familiar, but when that happens, you can't really play any sports for 9 months, at least 9 to 10 months. You got to be very ginger on your knee. It was major reconstructive surgery from basketball. And so, but I was still trying to stay active, right? So the first couple of weeks, it was just like, I'm just going to give up. Bonbons on the couch. I'm eating the Doritos, the Cheetos. I was like, I'll get it figured out after. So 2 weeks, then I'm able to, and I'm like trying to do push-ups. I'm doing everything, not related to my leg. And I start seeing this extra weight coming on for the first time I've ever seen, ever. I fluctuate a little bit, but it's never been like extreme. And all of a sudden, I get on, I'm like 20, 25 pounds. And I'm like, so I'm like, all right, I need to like chill out. Like the Doritos, that fun period, it's over. It's time to get serious. And I'm like doing all these push-ups and pull up and my home gym, doing all these things that I know normally I feel like would get me back to shape. But no cardio really, like the cardio, because I played basketball 3 to 5 days a week before that. And that cardio, I didn't realize how important it was. And I was eating better. I was even trying to eat better, but my belly just kept kind of getting bigger and not really going down. And I was like you said, I feel stronger. I feel that like my body should be, but it's just not. And I told my wife, I was like, look, just bear with me here. Something's not right. I was like, I'm going to Google this. Like, I'm not losing weight. I should be. She's like, so she laughed. She's like, no, it's called middle age. She's like, it happens.
We're getting old.
She's like, your metabolism slowed down. I'm like, I understand all that, but it doesn't happen this fast.
Yeah.
Like I went like 6 months before my surgery, I could get away with, if I had an extra cheeseburger or something, I felt a little bloated, but then the next day, gone back to whereas like now it's like I do that and it's like I feel it for like a week and I really have to work extra hard to. Yeah. And I'm like, what that? And she's like, it's middle age. And she just thought it was the funniest thing. And she was like telling all her friends, she's like, yeah, Will thinks that there's like some special thing that he has, some weird disease they haven't identified yet that's not allowing him to lose weight.
Anytime I'm like in a funk where I feel like I'm bigger, even if it's just like I'm bloated, I'm like, maybe I should get my thyroid checked. Maybe it's underactive.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm out of balance. Like, no, just stop eating burritos every day. And I'm not
I
gonna
did
do
the
that.
same thing with the thyroid. We have that in my family, so I was like, I'm sure I have it. My mom, my sister do have a thyroid problem. Got my
My mom
thyroid
does.
checked out.
Mine's been, I've had it tested every few years for a while now, but I'm good right now.
I almost want the thyroid problem. I'm like, then it's like, okay, there's something I can point to and be like, see, I know it. Now give me the
My
medication.
boyfriend in high school's dad had a hyperactive thyroid, and he was just very thin. I was like, how about that? Can we just take that
Hyperactive
option?
goes the other way.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, anyways, well, good for you. I support you 100%. Like, you gotta, like, part of life, it's outward, it's inward, and the exercising and all that is one thing, but if you're putting in the work and you're not seeing the results because father time and genetics and all these things, they all end up playing a part, then absolutely go out and do what makes you feel great when you look in the mirror. And it's really nobody else's business. And although I guess here we are talking about it, but I just saw that on people. But I'm proud of you for doing it, and kudos, my hat's off to you. And I recommend the same. So getting back to some of the conversations we were having last week about this Good Bones show. I hate to have you kind of have a identical conversation, although I feel like we have a pretty good dynamic. We can make anything fun we talk about.
Yeah.
Do you want to just kind of walk through sort of, I know that reading up on you went to school for art. You've always had this like artistic thing, right? Creative design.
No. Look, there's a lot.
Hi, I'm Will Moore.
The people article
What's your
said
name?
I'm 33, and I was like, I'll take that. I'm 36. So it probably did read it somewhere, and it's just wrong, like a lot of this stuff.
Okay, so yeah, normally we have you guys send what you want us to say. I don't think we got that, so I just went and Googled, and there is so much on you. This is the problem with having somebody that's as big as you, because it's like, right, God, fake news, faulty information.
But no, I went to IU Bloomington. I got a general studies degree and then business and sociology minors. I did not take any art classes or anything of the creative sort. I took business because I thought that would be important for whatever I did. But the way the creative part of my mind works is weirdly like analytical.
So, okay, just so you know where this is coming from, so you can maybe try to I'm looking where you can correct it. It's on Google Books. It says about the author, Mina. Oh no, they sent me somewhere else. No, yeah, HGTV's Good Bones. At the early age, she was artistic. She was an artistic high school and later enrolled in the NBSP illustration program at the NBSP.
No clue what that is.
Holy mother of Lord, we've found something, people.
Hey guys, just FYI, what you read on the internet and what you see on TV usually isn't true.
Not always exactly accurate. Unbelievable. Thank you for sharing that. I hadn't known that until just now. No, that is kind of shocking though. Because this is actually, no, seriously, Google your name and it says Mina, like on the right now they have these profiles for people. Like it's got a picture of you, it's got you and your husband. That's definitely you. See your pretty face. And then the very first thing, it's kind of got like this little biography, and then you scroll down and it says Google Books to see more. And then there it is, all this misinformation. So you may want to get your publicist, take a look at that. Anyways, okay, so the real story.
I actually just got a publicist because the kids' book's coming out, like just for 1 month. So you say that, like, I don't know if you actually thought I have one or not, but it's like feels like a very bougie thing to have.
Bougie. Very. I do not have a publicist. I mean, one day
I got
I'm
it for 1 month.
to have one.
Just one.
Well, what does it feel like? I mean, is it unbelievable? Are you like, oh, just talk to my publicist. My publicist will handle it. Like, is it everything you dreamed and hoped it would be?
No, she doesn't actually handle anything. She brings more things in and then sends them to me, and then I do things like this.
Got it.
But so I don't know. We're just the idea is that to get some of like the bigger outlets interested, because I don't know if I told you last time or you picked up on it, but I'm very, very competitive. And so I wrote this kid's book. There's nothing competitive about a kid's book until my manager was like, girl, you got to make the New York Times bestseller. And I was like, why'd you say that? Why'd you say that? Because now I have to do it. I was like, how many books do I need to sell to do it? And it's something like, it's only 1 through 10 for kids' books. And to get like in that 10th range, so you're in the list, is somewhere between 1,000 and 3,000. So,
I mean,
seems
I'll buy that
doable,
today, right now. Send me the money, and I'll. Oh wait, no, that's illegal.
right?
No, but
But
that isn't
we
that
got,
many books.
we got 1,000 on Amazon right now. So, yeah, that's it's
So
just
then
in my head now.
So you have 1,000. So okay, so you're approaching that list. It sounds like.
Hopefully.
Well, and here, let's help you. So tell us the name of the book. Where Amazon, we can find it. Where else if you want?
You can so it's called Built Together, and builttogetherbook.com is kind of the landing page, and it's got the Amazon link. And then I don't have the link yet, but I probably should have it today or tomorrow. There's a local bookstore that I'm gonna post because I know a lot of people want to buy from local ones, and I don't know other states, but I know ours. So, and it's a kid's book about just kind of how everyone looks different, everything's different, and this is particularly about building your family and kind of played off of how you build a house, like have a strong foundation, but you put it together so many different ways, whatever works for the way you live. Like you live in your house a different way than your neighbor probably does. So it's not just mom, dad, 2.5 kids. It's same-sex couples, adoptions, surrogates, ex-step parents, half parents, sibling, not half parents, half siblings, friends, neighbors, all that kind of stuff. And I was trying to get it out earlier. It's been a 2-year process, but I think even now still it's an extra poignant time, especially I do not get into politics, don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, but I've seen so many families that like that conversation is so polarizing that like it's families aren't speaking to each other, which is just crazy to me. So it's kind of this helpful from a young age idea of, like live and let live kind of.
Oh God. Well, I don't think we even talked about this on the last one. So thank God we're doing this again. I mean, maybe we briefly mentioned, but we were focused more on the show, which is obviously awesome. But to me, this is let's talk about more about this. Not only the book itself, but like the meaning and what you're doing with it, because this ties into everything that I'm doing. Inclusion. It's funny. Literally, just this morning, my wife is going to read to our son's class. He just switched schools. He's in kindergarten now. Go Wyatt. He's like his 3rd day. And I'm going to be reading next week. And I'm like trying to figure out, Lorax is like top of my list of what I probably want to read. Have you read the Lorax to your kids yet?
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it's like, it says it all.
We're really in the Little Blue Truck phase, which also has a very good message.
Great message, Little Blue Truck. But so she grabbed this book that I also love. It's called Where Everyone's Welcome Here. All are welcome here. And it's kind of very similar to what you just said, reminds me, where it's like, look, there's people from all different races, and there's people, there's a person that's blind in it, a little kid, they're all kids like in the same class, and there's a kid in a wheelchair, and it's like, look, we're all the same here. We just want to live our little best lives and be as happy as we possibly can be. And it makes zero sense for us to discriminate against other people, yet that's what we do. That's the society we're in, and that's the culture we tend to grow up in. So the more we can get it through to these kids early on, the importance of, and I mean, we're just always trying to beat it into poor little Wyatt's head. He's probably tired of this type of stuff by now. And then Emmett is only 19 months old, so he hasn't got a taste it yet. But thank you for doing what you're doing. Inclusion of like, whether you're gay, whether you're multiracial, whether it's like we're all families, and we all need to love and respect our own as well as others, and versus just this whole, it's all about me and my family, and everybody else can just piss off, worry about themselves. And like you said, getting into politics is a slippery slope. I'm not afraid, though, to say where I stand, which is, I'm not a big fan of how this last president played off of fears off of people and segregation, and there's us versus them. It was always like, it wasn't like a let's do it together type of thing. It was they're bad, we're good, and it ended up coming to a head at the end. And he can say all he wants that, oh, I didn't, blah blah blah, but that's the exact type of teaching people that type of hate and separation mentality is where extreme behavior comes from.
Yeah, I agree.
And I know you don't want to get into politics, so
everybody it's so funny because even well, I won't say who because I don't want to upset her, but I was having a conversation yesterday with another girl, and she grew up in like a really, really tiny town and had just started going to this new school, and it was largely white, but still with a fairly large Black population. And she came home, the first week of school, and her mom said, who are your friends? Like, who have you met? And she's rattling off all these kids. And her mom is a teacher, so she knows a lot of the kids in the school, and they're all a bunch of the white kids. And she said, so her mom's like, what about Billy, Susan, and Jimmy, who are a couple of the Black kids? And she put her hand on her hip and she said, we don't play with them. And as an adult, like telling that story, she was like, I can't believe I ever said that, because I didn't feel that way, but that's what all the kids around me said. So that's what I came home and said. And I said, did your mom beat your ass? And she was like, she did. She drilled home to me that like, that is not okay. That is not who we are. But it's just that easy. Like, you go to school for half a week, what all the kids are doing and saying, whether it's picking your nose or being a jerk to people, they just pick up on that stuff so easy. And so something as simple as a book at home, or them like overhearing your conversations at home. I was in the car and I said something about, I think, my husband's booty, and Jack in the backseat goes, booty? So like,
oh
we
yeah,
just hear everything. So just be aware of that from such a young age. Like, put the right books in front of them, be around the right people that are going to give your kids the message that you want them to have.
Thank you. That's exactly right. And thank you for contributing to the world, to one of these types of books. I always say, what legacy are you going to leave? At the end of the day, when it's all said and done, right? You can't take $1 million to your grave, but what you can take is what people say about you. And it's like, does the world consider being better off for having you in it, or worse off? Like, to me, that's what like everybody should wake up with. It's just like, and that should just be drilled into people's heads, because it's so easy, that low hanging fruit. And our brains, we've still got that primal part from our caveman days where it's like, I just need to get as much food and resources, me and my family to protect us, because, you never know when the next saber-toothed tiger is going to try to steal my stuff, or the next clan's going to come in. But that doesn't really serve us anymore like it used to, right? But we still have that sort of me, and it just, it's so toxic in terms of what it does in terms of building not only your own happiness forward, but the world's like momentum in heading in the right direction. So yeah, it's so important. So she's reading that book today. All are welcome here. I think I'm going to probably read the Lorax. Don't even get me started on climate change, global warming. I'm not one of those crazies on it, but I do believe, like, man, I believe in science, and I believe that we're most likely contributing to what's happening, and we got to make this generation coming up, hopefully it's not too late already, aware of, and so my kid, literally Wyatt, will be like, if he leaves the water running, now he catches himself, because I've drilled it into him that he's like, the humming fish are going to be upset. The humming fish aren't going to have a place to swim anymore. I better turn it off.
The humming fish?
And the humming fish, because in the book, the Lorax.
Gotcha. Okay.
The swami, the goopy goop from the factory where he's cutting down all the trees goes into the humming fish pond, and then the humming fish have to relocate. Same with the swami swans and the barbaloot bears, because the barbaloot bears don't have their fruits. And so I tie that into, when you leave water on, you're wasting it, and that's going to glump up the humming fish. Just little things like that, and it's like, it's connecting to his why. Everybody has a why, including children. Like, if you just say don't, it's not going to work to say, Wyatt, turn the water off. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, But when he actually in his brain, it's really neat to see that he's associated with, oh, those poor little humming fish are going to be hurt if I don't turn the water off. And, stuff like in the summer, it's cold as heck now here in Chicago, but right before, when we had a nice summer and I was out there watering our plants and he was doing it too. And he's like, Daddy, he's like, is this going to make the trufula trees grow up faster and bigger and say, and I was just like, oh my God, my little heart. I can't take it.
No.
So where did you get the idea? Have you had this idea? And obviously perfect play on what you're doing in terms of it's a building book and the foundation of the family. And you obviously have the show Good Bones. And so it's a great correlation. Where did this come from? And when did you decide that you wanted to write this book?
Honestly, I don't even, first of all, my brain doesn't work very well anymore. There's so much that has to come out because I'm jamming more stuff in. But I feel like it was just kind of like talking to my manager, the way that I've been on social media pretty much always, but more recognizably since I've had the show and therefore a bigger platform, has always been very out there. And it's always kind of been this running joke about my family is very confusing. It's all yours, mine, and ours. And my dad's second wife's first husband was also her third husband. So he was the second wife of my dad's kid's stepdad. Like, that's all true. And it sounds very confusing because it is. So that, we should have a TV show, not even about houses, just about the family. And it just kind of, I guess, like generated from that. And I wanted to write a book, but like an adult book, which I've started. I didn't want it to be like memoir-y because I don't feel like I'm old enough and know enough to make a memoir. So this has like in a very simplified 3-year-old kid version, a lot of the stuff that I think would end up in a book that I would write. So it's just like, this is a baby step. It's like 10
That's kind of neat. Good for you. Yeah, that's well, and again, like, right, you're simplifying. It's probably going to help you if you do actually turn it into the adult version. And by the way, just because people says you're 33, you don't have to say how old you are.
36.
36. Just because you're younger doesn't mean that you don't have value and wisdom to add to the world. There's been a lot of younger people than you that have shared their wisdom with people. So I wouldn't let that deter you. But that's great. That's smart. Have that simple framework now. Like, this is the message I want to get across. Putting it and how good does that feel to have a book that not only was like your heart and soul put into it, but now knowing that kids are reading it and their parents and becoming better people from it. Is that not just like the best feeling ever?
It is. And I think because I stay pretty busy, my husband regularly has to remind me, like, you need to stop and just for a second, like, this is cool. I'm like, oh, okay, but I'll be right back. He's like, no, this is cool. And it is. And it's weird because I think we're kind of wired not to be like, oh, I'm so great, I did this awesome thing. But it is a cool thing. So
it's very cool.
Yeah.
And I want, and right. I mean, we've been taught to be humble and not toot your own horn, and that's all well and good. That's what stuff like the show is about. I can do it for you.
You have to have your camera centered on those two amazing picture frames. Is that what's going on back there?
So I realized. So this is my that's my great grandmother, and then her husband. That's Henry Clay.
Wow.
Great. He was a great orator. He ran for president 3 times. Didn't make it, but he actually, his big claim to fame is that he freed his slaves. He was a big abolitionist even before Abraham Lincoln. So
wow, they're lovely.
Henry.
Frames are beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, these were found in my grandparents. God rest their souls, passed away several years back, and they were like sitting in the storage. We found them. We had them restored. And it was like, who do they go to? And I just fought the hardest in the family. I said, I want those.
Yeah.
So there they are. But yeah, so going back, and so right, so yes, you've done this, and now it's like, okay, now you've gotten a taste, and this goes back to the whole 5th core that I talk about, the emotional health, the giving back side, like how unbelievable it feels when you actually start doing that in the world. Because it feels great to like make money, and it feels great to have, but there's no feeling, and I'm sure you can now verify this as somebody that's now starting to experience this, of doing something that's actually like bettering people's lives of actions that you took. I mean, would you rather have that feeling for the rest of your life, or would you rather have that feeling of when you make a lot of money for the rest of your life?
Well, and I think sometimes people get it in their heads is like, oh, well, it's a luxury to be able to give back. Like you can do that. And 100%, there's this huge like spectrum of what you're able to do. And there's way more people that do, giant philanthropic efforts and billions of dollars because they have that ability. And what I'm able to do is significantly less. But like my company has a 501c3 that is helping to give back to some of the older homes in the neighborhood with people that have been there forever because they're part of the fabric of the neighborhood. So that's what we can do. But before I had, a TV show and a platform and the ability to reach more people, go to the soup kitchen on Thanksgiving. Like that doesn't cost any money.
Right.
So I think it doesn't have to be, it's not a luxury. Like anyone can do it. You just do it on the level that you're able to do it.
Thank you for saying that. And that is one of those topics that doesn't get discussed a lot, but I will sit here and admit that like in my early days when I was struggling and trying to, make it, and when I was confused with what the definition of success was, when I thought it was just all about becoming, I had a tough childhood. My parents were hippies. My mom was an alcoholic. I don't know why I'm smiling. This is when I get nervous. And she was physically abusive, mentally abusive, verbally. And I got to the point where I was like suicidal basically in college. And I was like, I don't want to live anymore. Like my brain's broken. I had this victim mindset. And it's like, and then I had this serendipitous moment that just changed everything for me. And ever since then, it's been like this very slow, like step-by-step journey to improve myself. And one of the things early on that I remember saying to myself was, I am going to be so filthy, stinking rich that all those people that were mean to me are going to feel so sorry for me, or not sorry, but are going to feel so mad at themselves for being mean to me, and I'm going to get them. And that's that typical sort of, I think a lot of people have that.
I'm like those boyfriends that broke up with me. I bet they think I'm super cool now.
Right.
They probably don't. They probably still don't care. But I like to think that in my head.
They probably, I think they probably are like, I missed the boat. I blew that. So, but yeah, but at the end of the day, that helped. I don't regret having those feelings because that helped to motivate me to the point where I excelled not only in my career and my finances, but I started figuring out these other areas of life: the physical health, the relationships, the emotional health, right? The mindset. And I started kind of evolving in all these areas. And then it wasn't until, years later that I started, was like, okay, I understand that this chase that I'm after, even if I get it, because like, I was hitting all my goals in terms of financially with the company where I wanted to be. And then we ended up selling the company. And I don't know if I told you this last time we talked, but everything was confirmed for me when we sold our company in 2019, when we exited and we got bought. And it was, I knew what was going to happen, but I needed it to happen for me to see it. And it was, this feels unbelievably great to have this large chunk of money go into my bank account. But very, very quickly after, it was, okay, now what?
Now what? Yeah.
What's next? And it was like this hollow feeling of, oh man. And that's when it just hit me, like the meaning of life is it's all about moving forward and goals and progress. And you're never going to have enough. If you say, I want $10,000, you're going to get it. And then it's like, okay, now what? So you got to enjoy the journey. You got to make sure
part of that is like, okay, it's good to have a next goal, but as long as you have all the other stuff that's going to make you feel good around it, not just like the monetary goals.
Exactly right. Exactly right. You've got to have all five of these. Like I call them these five cores. You got to have the relationships, your physical health, your mindset. Like you're building your character, your strength, your confidence, the way you see the world. Trying to help people versus hurt. Bring people together. If you're doing all that, then and you can make money doing it at the same time, then great. And that's what career and finance is, one of the cores. It's not that that's not important. You got to have enough, and it's okay to have like. I don't put any shame on anybody's game if they say my goal is to have $1 billion. It's like, okay, great, but just don't ignore your other cores while you do it, right? And just getting back to this is kind of I've kind of segued a little bit, but getting back to your original point, which is that it's very easy to say, well, I'm not there yet. I can't give back. I don't have time to do this, or I don't have time to do that. And I was even guilty of that in the beginning. But then I did start, before I'd gotten there and I made it, I woke up, and for our company, which was a restaurant delivery service, kind of like a Grubhub or a DoorDash, was the company that I ran. I started doing programs with the homeless, where I coordinated with local restaurants, and we were having that extra food that was getting thrown out at the end of the night. The amount of food that gets thrown out at the end of a night at a restaurant is obscene, especially when you know there's how many starving people there are, not only in the world, but even in the US, right? And so we started basically having our drivers, we paid them out of our own pocket to go pick up the food and deliver it to the soup kitchens. Not all the food was edible, so it had to be certain types of food and whatnot. And it was like, I could easily not done that, but then when we started doing that, I felt so much better about what I was doing, because the business itself wasn't necessarily a noble. I mean, we're delivering food to people that are hungry, right? So that's why. And then once I did sell my business, I've now switched to more of okay, now my mission in life is to help the world build momentum, to get together, and for people to become the best version of themselves, so they can help the world to do the same. Because this whole thing that we're doing right now, hopefully, now that this guy's out of the office, things are gonna start changing a little bit. I mean, the president that we have now, he's at least saying, look, let's do more of this. Hopefully that becomes more of the rhetoric. But these last 4 years, it's almost unbelievable how much not only our country, but the whole world is just split in two. And then one half is pointing at the other going, you're evil, you're wrong. Like, I'm good, you're bad. Like, that doesn't do anything.
Believe that. So it's just.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then, like you were saying, then you've got, I call them your influencers. First, it's your parents, then it's your peers, the little kids you play with, then it's your school, then it's news and media. And nowadays, as we know, the news and the media will show you, like, literally show you the things that they think you're interested in. So if you're searching for, like, call it Antifa or
like,
whatever it is.
Confirmation bias in your newsfeed.
Exactly right. Confirmation bias in your newsfeed. And you're just seeing more. What's that?
Is that the right term for it? Like,
that is the right term.
Yeah.
Well
you
said.
keep finding things because you've already decided one thing. You're like, oh, well, here's another article, and so and it just keeps adding on. But you're not seeing a lot of the information on the other side because they've got this great algorithm to just show you what they know you want to see about all kinds of things, not just politics. Like, I don't get ads for Nike because Steve says we're an Adidas family. They don't pay us. I wish they did, but I get Nike ads or Adidas ads, not Nike ones, because that's what I will buy. They know I want to see that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Have you seen that Netflix show, The Social Dilemma?
Yes. It's kind of terrifying. And my sister-in-law and my brother that are out in California, after they watched it, she was like, I'm really going to kind of backstep away from social media. And I think that's a really good idea. And I'm just, probably you too, like, in this weird position because so much of what I do depends on social media and staying relevant. And you can't have any influence if you're not relevant anymore. So I don't really have that luxury. But yeah, it was an interesting watch for sure.
I mean, yeah, it was really interesting. And the kind of ties into what we're talking about. And the main takeaway for me was just basically that, you need to be aware. And first of all, let me preface this. I'm not one of these, like, conspiracy theories that say, like, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, like, started out to build evil companies that were going to take over the world, right?
Yeah.
What I see is that these guys were just guys that were just like I started out saying, I want to grow my company and make it as big and awesome as possible. What's happened now that they've become public companies, they're stuck. The genie's been let out of the bag. They have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to grow that company as fast as possible at all costs. Wellness and happiness of their users is not on the bottom line spreadsheet. That's not what the shareholders are looking at, right? And so if it means that it's going to, teen suicide right now, especially for females, is at an all-time high. A lot of people don't realize that. People are actually becoming less and less happy. If you look at the World Happiness Report, it's been going like this. And yet you think, well, how's that possible? All this great technology and all this.
Yeah.
And to me, it comes down to what Stan Lee of Marvel fame,
Yes.
the guy that, are you familiar?
Yes.
Not everybody, created Marvel with great, the best quote like on the planet comes from him, in my opinion. With great power, there must also come great responsibility. And in terms of what we're talking about here, that means, okay, technology, like, and it is growing so fast. Our knowledge is expanding so fast, but our wisdom isn't catching up, right? We're abusing it, and we don't have enough, like, we don't have enough in place for people to sort of monitor what's going on and say, you know what, this isn't doing good for people's health, their happiness, the planet. Like, we need to step in, and that's just starting to happen now. I'm just starting to see that, and thank goodness, like things like Apple, like now, they're having stuff like how much you spend on your social media, like being able to monitor that and track it. Although it's still, to me, it's way too passive. Like, I have that on my phone, but it's not like I get alerts like, hey, you're spending too much time. And they have, the rings on your watch. I have an Apple Watch. I don't know if you use any of these, but it's similar to like a Fitbit, where it tracks your activity, and and that's all. So it's like, technology is not inherently bad. It's how certain companies are using it, and right now we've gone too far where the biggest companies are using it more, for lack of a better term, evil versus good.
Yeah.
Whereas my whole thing in life and what I'm trying to do, and I'm actually building an app myself, which I'm excited about, is to essentially get people addicted, but in a good way, like hitting those same dopamine threads in their brain, but to leveling up, so that when they level up on screen, they're also leveling up in real life, and they're getting addicted to changing their habits and becoming actually better people.
Yeah. That's awesome. That sounds exciting.
So, all right,
I feel like we could do like 20 sessions. I don't think we've talked about anything we talked about last time.
I don't think we have either. But it did remind me. I thought it was an interesting story. I remember last time. Why don't you tell the viewers that don't already know how you actually got the show? I remember you were saying you had this. It was I believe it was a social media page, and then somebody found it. Right? Do you want to just tell that story?
Yeah. My mom and I had been renovating houses for a handful of years. I got my real estate license, and I made a little Facebook page that local downtown realtors, a handful of them followed. And I started the page really kind of as to log what we were doing, like progress of houses. So I'd always have pictures of them and whatnot. And then got, maybe like 100 people and realtors followed. And High Noon, which is who our production company is, one of their talent scouts, the way they find a lot of people for the shows now is just now scouring Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff for like real talent instead of hosts. This gal found our Facebook page and thought it was interesting, and like it's just clicking in my head. There's a really good video that was on there where I went down into a city sewer. And it felt very Silence of the Lambs, like it puts the lotion on the skin vibe. And that was on there. And I could see how that would be like, oh, these girls are pretty entertaining, because you're not supposed to do that. I was trying to see if our house's sewer line was attached to it. And instead of paying the money for a sewer scope, I ran a hose from the neighboring house to what I thought was the sewer line from the house, climbed down in the sewer line, and listened for the water to fall in. And it was attached. But so yeah, that's how they found it. Phone calls, Skype interview, some video footage. We made a pilot, and then now we're on season 6 of the show.
God. So how is your life? I love that story. I remember you telling that last time. It's just like, you never know how your life is going to change. You ever see that movie? Was it Sideways? The one where, and then there's the butterfly effect. Bottom line, you never know. Like, one moment can change your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's amazing. Like, where would your life be now had that person not found? Right, here you are 6 years later. So how has your life changed, for better or for worse, since all this has happened?
Both. For better, it's weird having a TV show, because like I do have a real business. We renovate homes. Like, it's a for-profit business. But a lot of times having the TV show feels very trivial. So like I'm a dancing monkey, even though this is what I'm doing, like I'm renovating houses. but with that has come a much bigger platform. So when I say something, I have 460 some thousand followers that are listening. And again, great power, great responsibility, and being able to use that in a really positive way is awesome. My husband, poor guy, he's lost both his parents and his sister in the last few years, but his parents experienced homelessness when he was like 18, 19, 20. And so it feels very strongly about working with that in our community. And we, hooked up with a local nonprofit that does that here in Indy. I was able to get a link. I posted on social media their Amazon link, and whether you're buying a $3 pack of socks or a $60 winter coat, they got pallets of stuff in. And that's awesome. And that it cost me nothing other than obviously I donated, but just the ability to have that reach is really cool, because you can actually make a difference, because it's not me making a difference. It's me saying, hey, will you 400,000 people help me make a difference? And my husband has 12,000 followers, but he doesn't reach that many people. So that's been really, really cool. And then the other part is just, it's this, your whole life's in, you're like in what's the word? Under a microscope.
Right. Well, you said that that people article, speaking of that, sorry to interrupt real quick. Did they something like that? Did they reach out to you, or did they just say, we're going to write this article without your approval? Or
a lot of articles do randomly get written like that one, so they're wrong. But no, People Magazine, when I had Jack, they came out and did a photo shoot, and they had reached out for that, and they followed my IVF journey. So I kind of have a relationship with them. And when I knew I was going to do the surgery, I actually, pinged the girl that I talked to a lot and said, I'm going to be public with this. And I have posted some things in the past. I can't even think of an example right now, but got a few comments from people saying, my 6-year-old son follows you, or my 12-year-old daughter follows you. Like, think about what you're saying a little bit more. And so when I was thinking about this, because I am very open, I have videos of me removing my drain, which some people probably are like, cool, watch that, kid, if you want, but some people don't. So I wanted to be able to share it with everyone that wanted to know and wanted the details, but not an overtly in your face way on my page. So I decided to kind of do it through people. So you got to work a little bit harder to at least see the weird drain removal video. So that was why I did that.
Well, and I like that you brought back up Stan Lee's quote, with great power comes great responsibility. Because, right, so just like these tech companies, in my opinion, need to start considering, no matter, what it costs their bottom line, there has to be some element of, what are we doing to people's happiness, to their wellness? Clearly, you're not where Facebook and Google are, but you have
I don't want that much responsibility.
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility. Yeah. Well, and you don't have a company that you owe to your shareholders, or you don't have, every move you make, you don't have to do to please some stuffy suit somewhere. So it's cool, but that you see that, and that you're basically, you wrote the book that you wrote, and your attitude is sort of like, I do have a lot of eyes on me, and what I say, it does matter. And I can either, it goes back to that original statement I said at the beginning of the show, like, what is the legacy you're going to leave? Like, are you going to leave this world better or a worse place for being in it?
Well, and the majority of messages I get are overwhelmingly positive. And I posted one. I took the gal's name off, but pretty much she was telling me that I wasn't a role model, and she was disappointed in me. And that's one in 1,000 comments that are like that. But obviously, those are the ones that kind of stick in your brain. And since the People article came out, I've gotten an overwhelmingly positive response from people saying, thank you so much. Like, I want my kids to see this. I want them to know. Because, what, you're going to pretend boob jobs aren't a thing for your whole life with your kids? Like, it's a thing. And if you make it for the right decision, it's a perfectly fine choice for you. So saying, thank you for being open. Thank you for being honest. Whatever it's about, that's the role model. We do want that. You are a role model. So that's a nice balance, the 1,000 nice ones to the one crappy one.
So a couple things on that. Number one, you're always going to have haters. Like the bigger you get, the more you're going to get, and the harder they want you to fall. I saw something recently. I can't remember what it was on, but it talked about this dynamic, which is so true. Of we want to build people up when we think that they're at the bottom. Like we have this, like, as a society, right? Like the underdog. But then once they get up, all people want to do is tear them down. It's kind of this very interesting dynamic, right? We love to see people fail that have way more than us, because it makes us feel better than ourselves.
I mean,
right?
and it's in every field, like even within the network. I've met some other talent that are so generous with their knowledge and experience. The Property Brothers, they're awesome. Alison, Victoria, like so many people that I've worked with that are incredibly helpful and kind of the mindset, like a rising tide floats all boats. Like me telling you my experience so yours can be easier isn't taking anything away from me. But there are so many of the people on the other hand that keep everything very close, close to their vest, because they feel like they'll lose something if they share it with you. So I've tried really hard to be that first one versus like, yeah, what do you want to know? I made friends with the Rambling Redhead. She's on Instagram. If you don't follow her, she's hilarious and I love her. We kind of happenstance crossed a human and became friends, and she just filmed a pilot's going straight to season, and we text all the time, and I give her advice and say, they're taking advantage of you, or they're not, or like, yeah, learn that lesson the hard way. And I understand why some people feel like they, like what you said, they don't want to give you the information once you're at a certain level, like, oh, because then maybe you become a threat. Like if my show gets more viewings, it's going to take something away from yours, which it isn't. Like then the whole network's better, and advertisers pay more and they love us more.
That's exactly right. It goes back to, like we were talking about earlier, that primal instinct in our brain of like more.
Yeah.
Gordon Gekko from Wall Street. Greed is good. Greed is not good, but it's something that it's one of the deadly sins, I believe.
Yeah.
Greed, sloth, right? It's one of those things that if that becomes a center of your life, and you're gonna be less happy, it's gonna eventually bite you.
Yeah.
Whereas the opposite, which is the more you just assume everybody loves you and you give that love back to them, and that everybody wants to help you and you give that help back, and you just basically say, how can I help you? Then that's going to come your way, and you're going to get so much further in life. And that's the irony of it all, is the people that are trying so hard to hold on to their, whatever it is, their little, pocket of gold that they have, and grow it slowly, versus the people that are like, look, I'm not worried about it. How can I help you? How can I make the world better? That's when the real gold starts to fall.
I mean, I'm definitely kind of both. I'm not going to lie, because I grew up, everyone has their, like, this is how I grew up story. And, but finances, like money, was a big control factor. And so like I had a job from when I was very young, so I had my own money. So if I had my own money, I could make my own rules more. So I've constantly battled with, okay, I know internally it's very important to me because it's immediately connected to controlling my own life. And even when my husband and I got married, we had this long conversation about finances, which I'm sure a lot of couples do. Do we keep them separate? Do we do them together? And so for us, what worked is we each have our own accounts. So he doesn't judge me when packages come from wherever. And when he gets his 10th pair of Red Wings, I don't judge him. And then we have our account together. And that worked for us. But it's constantly coming up in my life, that urge to kind of hoard to make sure I'm always okay. Like if the world bottoms out, I'm gonna be on my little island and I'll be fine. Balanced with, okay, this is happening in your brain, so work through it, do what you need to do to feel safe, and then let the rest go. And that's all the time.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting. You mentioned these packages showing up. I don't remember the last time 10 packages didn't show up at my doorstep every day.
Yeah.
And ironically, my company used to be called Doorstep Delivery, so really I shouldn't be complaining. However, I tell my wife sometimes, I'm like, I get it. It's convenient, but do we really need, and it's usually kids stuff for the kids. But even that, when you've got 80% of the toys they're not playing with, and only 20% you're just kind of like, do we really want to keep adding to this hoard? And so I don't know, that's a whole separate conversation. Of my sister, actually, she's a psychiatrist. She wrote a thesis paper on our obsession with stuff and where it comes from. And kind of just a quick anecdote that's interesting is it actually back in the day, when we would see water out the sun shimmering off the water, it remind us of like gold. And so when gold became this thing, it was like, okay, people became obsessed, and like this obsession with money. I'm not doing it justice. She wrote a paper on it, but it's all very interesting, this obsession. And more than ever with social media and stuff, you see the picture of that person who's got this, and you want that, and it's this like, all I have to do is click a button and I can get anything I want. It's a slippery slope, so you gotta be careful. But it sounds like a good solution, you and your husband.
Our nanny this morning, she said, asked me if I took collagen. And I was like, I think I do. I think it's in my She said, well, Khloe Kardashian has this line. It's like a 28-day thing. It's going to make you glow. And I'm just like, Hannah, someone's paying her to tell you all that. There's collagen in the cabinet if you want to take it. And it is like, okay, Khloe Kardashian is glowing, so I'm going to buy this thing. She said that made her look like that, even though, it's Botox and plastic surgery and peels and
Photoshop.
Yeah, which just circles back to why I wanted to be honest about my plastic surgery, because I don't want anyone to see, a family picture on our family vacation on the beach this summer with flat as hell abs and be like, well, she did it. Like, I just have to work hard. And if no, you have to have surgery. They sew your muscles back together.
So I want to thank you for your brutal honesty and letting people into your world and showing people you're a human being and not trying to put up this, hey, look how great I am, and hiding your surgery. So thank you for doing that. I just saw somebody post about, is he munching on furniture? I was really hoping that this feedback that I'm getting on my side was just in my own earpiece. Do you hear it?
But I think also, I think my screen is frozen because no comments have come up, and the amount of people that are viewing hasn't changed. So we're either really interesting and no one's left, or it's not.
Oh no, we're getting tons of comments, and it's changing by the second.
How many people do you have us watching us?
So we started with, it's been fluctuating anywhere from like 250 to 600.
Okay, because mine said 537 since we've been on the phone. So who knows?
Yeah. But I mean, if people are hearing this munching on furniture, the number's probably not helping. It's not your fault. It's probably more mine. So let's wrap it up. I mean, I could interview you again. I mean, I feel like there's so much to talk about, and I interview you again. It's a new set of people watching, and then we can promote your book even more. Because I don't like to promote like things. It's like, hey, check out my new. But if you actually have something that's helping the world, I'll promote the heck out of it. Built Together. I literally have it up on my Amazon right now. I'm about to hit purchase. Pre-order. So it comes out February 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm going to buy it right now. I recommend everybody else do that has kids, or even if you don't have kids, if you just want a little feel-good book, right? Because you said you were going to write this. This was going to be like your memoir, but it's all of it, but it's in a simplified, fun little kid version.
Listed, if the website's builttogetherbook.com, and I would assume like the launch team link is on there too. But you can be part of the launch team, which is just like a fun extra thing that you can, if you've bought the book, you can sign up for, and you get the book digitally a day early. We're going to do a big Zoom with like 100 people, and then everyone else can like YouTube watch it. Just some like special chats with me and fun stuff like that. So people can do that as well.
Love it. Oh man. Well, thank you so much. Somebody else, you can't see the comments, but somebody else said, yep, I've been hearing the munching. I've been listening through it. So I'm sure a lot of people are annoyed by it. So we may have to do this again, Mina. Hate to break it to you. And
Did
talk
you
about
record it this time?
This time it's being recorded, and so this is the key. When I get off,
you have to listen.
I need to do nothing else. Like if I get a text or something, because then I go to the other screen and I came back and it must have gotten lost. So I'm doing nothing but posting this, and I'm going to put our comments, and we'll be good to go.
Okay.
But you had amazing things to say, and so we always cut these up and edit them. And then there'll be more clips put on our show, as well as our actual podcast. And we have a YouTube channel. There'll be clips put on there as well. So a lot of it, I'm sure, will focus on you, so they don't have to hear this. So thank you, Mina.
Yeah.
It's been awesome. And I'm sorry I didn't get to see your sweet little lady. Another reason to come on again. So we'll be following up.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. All right. Bye-bye.
That's it for today's episode of the 5 Core Life podcast with Will Moore, founder of More Momentum. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have not already, please make sure to subscribe and follow the podcast wherever you are listening or watching. This so that you get notified when new episodes air every week. And if you've not joined the 5 Core Life Facebook group, I encourage you to join that and see what all of the fuss is about. There's some awesome content designed to get your momentum going, including a monthly giveaway to win a complimentary coaching call with the Will Moore. The Facebook group is currently the only place to get Will's dedicated attention on your 5 core journey. If you're feeling stuck or just want someone to cheer you on, then that is the place you need to be. There's nothing like a community of people on the same journey to get you fired up, kicking butt, and taking names. So come join us.
Get moving. Gain momentum. Join the movement. Join Emmett by going to moremomentum.com to take a free life evaluator quiz on where you currently stand in each of your 5 cores.